Hello everyone. In this video I'll be talking about coroutines flow, and in this video I will cover topics like how to create flow, what are cold flows, then we will see flow cancellation, we will also see different flow builders, and then we will see about flow operators like map, transform, take, reduce, and then I'll show you how flows are sequential, and then we will also see how to change context while using flow. This is the second video on Kotlin coroutines flow. In our previous video, we have covered about basics of Kotlin coroutine flow, and we have also seen how does it work using an example. So if you haven't watched that video yet, you can watch it using the I button or using the link in the description. So now let's start with this video. So I'll go to my IntelliJ editor. Here I will start with a main function. Here I'll start with a function where I'll show you how you can create a flow of elements using flow builder. So I'll call this function flow example. Okay, and I'll create this function here. So here in this function I'll use a flow builder. You can simply use flow function for that, and you need to import this. This function is available in Kotlin X coroutine module. Okay, inside this I'll simply write a for loop. I'll call value in 1 to 3 range, and this will give me values from 1 to 3, which I'll simply emit from here. So first I'll print emitting values, and then I'll simply use a function emit. So this function basically emits element one by one. So I'll simply pass the value, and that's it. So this function is ready. This will return you a flow of elements. So here after calling this function we will receive a flow of elements, and now I want to print it. So for that we have a function called collect. So collect is a terminal operator. I'll explain it in some time. So this is one of the terminal operator using which you can collect your elements from flow, and you can simply print it here. Okay, so I'll simply print this now. So if you see, we are getting one error here. It is saying that suspend function collect should be called only from a coroutine or another suspend function. So for that I'll add a run blocking function here. So I'll simply use run blocking so that we will get a coroutine scope inside which we'll be able to call this function. Okay, so our function is ready. Now let's run this example and see the output. So here in the output we got the elements from flow one by one. So if you observe, this is first printing the emitting values which is from this block, and then it is printing the value which is inside this block, right? That means these two print statement is getting executed alternatively, right? So I have explained this in my previous video that how does it work. I have covered the basics of coroutine flow, so you can watch that. So I'll move to the next example. Next we will see cold flow. So I'll write a function. I'll call it cold flow. Okay, I'll simply create a function. Inside this function I'll create a variable flow, and then I'll call the previous function which I have created, flow example. So this will basically returns me a flow of integer. Then I'll call collect method. Before that I'll add a print statement. Here I'll say calling collect. Okay, and then I'll call collect on this function, and then I'll simply print the elements. Okay, so here also I have to add run blocking, because this collect method can be called from a suspending function or a coroutine. So we need a coroutine scope here. So now what I'll do next is I'll again call this collect method. So I'll simply say again calling collect, and inside this I'll add one more print statement. I'll call flow started. Okay, so let's run this example and let's observe the output. I'll comment the previous call. Okay, so let me run this example. So here in the output, if you see, let me remove this line. So I'll rerun this example again. Here in the output, first we got calling collect, which is from this function, and then as soon as we call the collect method, then we got flow started, which means this function is invoked when we called collect, right? And then again when we called collect for the second time, it again started from the beginning, flow started, and then it returned me a row of integers. So here in this function, on the very first line we have called this method which is returning me a flow. So in case of flow, whenever you call this method, it returns you immediately. It does not wait for anything. And as soon as you call collect on it, then only this function get invoked. So if you notice, we got this output only after this collect is called, right? That means we can say that flows are cold. It does not get invoked until unless we call a terminal operator on it. So that is the reason we don't need to add any suspend function whenever we are working with flows, because flow itself returns immediately. So now I'll move to next example. We'll see flow cancellation. So cancellation in flow is similar to cancellation in coroutine. So in one of our previous video, I have covered how cancellation works in coroutine, and you can watch it using the I button. So now here I'll write an example here to show how does cancellation works. So I'll simply call it flow cancellation. I'll create a function here inside which I'll use the method with timeout or null, and here I'll pass a timeout of, let's say, 250 milliseconds, and then I'll call the very first example, flow example, and then on top of it I'll use the collect method, and then I'll print the elements. Now I also have to add run blocking here. So here in this function, what I did was I used the function with timeout or null. This method will make sure that this block will execute only for the time which you have passed here. So for now I have passed 250 milliseconds. That means after 250 milliseconds, this processing, if not completed before 250 milliseconds, then this will cancel the coroutine. And I'll add one more statement here. I'll say completed. Okay. So what I'll do next is I'll go to this example. So here I'll add a delay of 100 milliseconds. Okay. And then let's run this example. I'll comment the previous call. Let's run this example and see the output. So here if you see, we got flow started 1, 2 and then completed. That means it does not wait for the third element, because if you see, this block will take at least 300 milliseconds. And if you see here, we have given a timeout of 250 milliseconds. That means it does not wait for the last element. So that's why we have got only 2 elements. That means this method, which is returning me a flow, cooperates with cancellation, right? Let's see what happens if I change this delay to a thread.sleep. So this is basically a blocking function, right? And let's see if I use this blocking function here, then what is the output? I'll rerun this example. So if you see here, now it is not cooperating with the cancellation, because thread.sleep does not internally checks whether the coroutine is cancelled or not. But instead of this, if we use delay, it basically checks if this coroutine has been cancelled or not. So if you rerun this example, we will see that it got cancelled after 2 elements. If you want to know more about how cancellation work, you can watch my video on coroutine cancellation. I will move to next example. Next we will see about flow builders. So apart from this flow builder, we have 2 more flow builders which I can show you right now. So here I'll write another function. I'll call it flow builder. Okay, and then I'll create this function. So inside this function, I'll create a flow of elements from a range. So I'll declare a range from 1 to 3, and then we have a extension function as flow. Okay, so this will basically returns you a flow of elements, and then you can simply call collect on it, and then you can print the elements, right? So this is one extension function. So here I'll have to use run blocking. So this is one way where you can use extension function as flow to create a flow of elements. So I'll comment this previous call and let's run this example. So here you can see that we got 1, 2, 3, right? We are able to get flow of elements. Next, what you can do is you can use flow of method. So we have a method flow of, and where you can pass multiple values, okay, which will return you a flow of elements. So if I rerun this example, you will get a similar output. So that is about different ways of creating flow. So I'll move to next example. Next we will see about flow operator. Here I'll duplicate this method. Okay, I'll rename this. I will call this method flow with map operator. Okay, inside this function, after creating a flow of elements, you can simply use a map operator, and then you can perform any operation here, inside which I'll simply map this incoming integer elements to a string value. So I'll map it to value is it. Okay, so if I run this example, let's run the flow with operator. I'll comment the previous call. Let's run this example. So here in the output we have received string values after applying map. So how does this map operator different from the map operators which are available on different collections like list and other? One major difference of map operator available in coroutine flow with the map operator available in other collections like list is that we can call a suspending function from this block. So I will simply call a process function. So from here I'll pass the elements and then I'll create this function. Okay, I'll call it value and then I'll add a delay of 100 millisecond and I'll simply return this value. Okay, and I'll also change the return type. So here in the map operator we are able to call a suspending function. So let's run this example again. Let's see the output. So here we got the similar output. So that's about the map operator. Next we will see transform operator. So similar to map we have something called transform. So I'll simply duplicate this and I'll change this name to transform operator. Okay, and instead of map what I can do is I can use transform, and then inside transform we can use emit method, inside which you can call any suspending function again. So what I'm doing here, instead of map we have a method called transform. Transform operator is similar to the map operator where you can perform complex transformation to incoming elements. So here I've used the emit method available and then I called the process function. Okay, so I'll simply call this function from here. Okay, I'll comment out the previous call. I'll rerun this example. So we should be getting the same output. Yeah. So that's about transform. Let's see the next example, take. So here we have a take operator available which basically limits the number of elements you want to receive. So if you use take and if you pass a number 2, even this flow returns me 3 elements, this take operator will make sure that it receives only 2 elements. So if I rerun this example, you can see that we have received only 2 elements. So this take operator basically limits the number of elements coming from the incoming stream. Okay, so next we will see reduce operator. So similar to collect, we have another terminal operator which is reduce. So I'll simply duplicate this method. Okay, I'll do little modification here. I'll change this name to reduce operator, and then from this function I'll remove everything, and then here instead of collect I'll use reduce. So this reduce method works similar to the usual reduce method which has a accumulator and then a value. So it will have an accumulator and value, and I'll simply, so this function will basically return me a sum of these 3 elements. So what I'll do, I'll declare a variable here, I'll call it sum. Okay, and then I'll simply print this. Then I'll call this method and let's run this example to see the output. So here you can see we have got 6 as our output. Okay, so next we will see flows are sequential. So here I will write a function where I'll show you that flows are sequential. So I will call this function flows are sequential. So inside this function I'll create a flow of 5 elements. So I'll use a range from 1 to 5, and then I'll use that extension function as flow, and then I'll add a filter method where I'll filter out all the odd values, and then I'll use a map operator. I'll map it to some string value, so I'll call it value is, and then I'll add $8. Okay, and then I'll call collect on top of this. So I'll simply print the incoming elements. Okay, so here I'll also have to use run blocking. So here I have created a flow of 5 elements, then I put a filter which basically checks if the number is divisible by 2 or not, and then it maps to a string value, and then I'm simply printing this value using the collect method, right? So before running this example, what I'll do, I'll simply add few more print statement. Here I'll add filter, and then inside map also I'll add this print statement. I'll call it map. Okay, So now let's run this example. I'll comment the previous call. Let's run this example. So here in the output we got filter 1. So the first element was 1, which flows to this block and it does not meet this condition. The second element flows to this block which satisfies this condition and it goes to the next block, which is map. That is the reason we receive map 2, and it simply returns me this value, and then it simply print the map value is 2. So it printed this. Then again in the similar way we receive filter 3, which flows to this block and that element does not meet this condition. That is the reason we move to the fourth element, which again comes to this block and then sequentially to this map block and then collect method, right? And then the last element start again with the first block. That means from this stream of elements, each element will get processed sequentially. So now I'll next move to flow context. So here I'll write a function where I'll show you how you can switch between context while using flow. So I'll simply write flow context here, okay, and then I'll create a function here. So inside this function I'll call the very first example which we have created. So here from this method we are returning a flow of 3 elements, right? So what I'll do, I'll remove this delay as of now, and instead of using a plain println, I'll write my own method log so that I can print thread information. So I'll quickly write a function here log, which will take a message of type string, okay, and then inside which I'll simply print this. Inside this I'll simply call thread and then I'll print the thread information. So I'll use thread dot current thread and then name. So this will give me the thread information, and then what I'll do, I'll simply add the message we have passed to this function, okay. So yeah, so here our log function is ready. So what I'll do, I'll simply pass this function so that we can get to know on which thread it is running, okay. And then on here, so here I'll simply call the collect method, okay, inside which I'll simply print the elements, okay. Here I'll need to put run blocking, okay. So let's run this example and see the output. Oh, let me I'll comment the previous call. Now let's run this example. So if you see, the flow started on the main thread. Let me also use log function here so that we can know on which thread this block is getting executed. I'll move this to a string, okay. I'll pass the value in a string format, and let me rerun this example. So here if you see, the flow started on the main thread and then we have printed these elements on the main thread itself. By default, flow inherits the context from where it is being called. So here it is being called from the main function, which is using the main thread. So let's say here in this example you want to perform some CPU intensive task, and for that you want to use the default dispatcher. So the usual way of switching context for coroutine is to use with context method. So I'll simply move this block, okay, inside with context method, and here I'll choose a dispatchers default, okay, and then I'll paste the previous block. So here what I did was I used the method with context and I passed the default dispatcher, and then I execute this block, right? So let's see what happens if we use this with context with flow. So I'll simply rerun this example. So here we have got a exception which says illegal state exception, flow invariant is violated. And if you see the second line, it says flow was collected in this coroutine context, right? And then if you see the third line, it says but emission happened in this coroutine context. That means it is happening in a default dispatcher. That is why it is giving this exception. So if you see the next line, it says please refer to the flow documentation or use flow on instead. So flow on is basically an operator which is available here for flow. So whenever we want to change the context while using flow, we have to use this flow on operator. So we have something called flow on operator where you can pass the dispatchers and you can use the default here, and you can simply remove this block out of this with context method. So this is basically the correct way of switching context while using flow. So let me rerun this example. So if you see in the output, the flow started on a default dispatcher. That means this block got executed on a different block, and then it basically prints all elements in the main thread. So that is where we use flow on operator whenever we want to change the coroutine context. So yeah, that's all about this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button and also share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please go ahead and subscribe so that you never miss any updates on latest tech videos. Thank you for watching.